Another day, another Naira. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Sunrise Daily today. I'm Chamberlain. So
for a moment, I thought it was a business show. You didn't say another week, politics or something.
Come
Naira.
on, what are we all here for? If not for the Aziki ways. You know what I'm saying?
Indeed. Good morning.
That's the idea.
And welcome to Sunrise Daily. I'm Maufe Ogun.
In fact, I hear that the contractors still want their own version of because, I mean, that's where the issue is these days. So no matter what you do, if that is not coming in, there's going to be a problem. Even if it's in the house, it's a problem. So wherever it is, you know you have to do the needful these days.
They've been reassured 200 times. They've been reassured several times over that they will be paid their funds. And last we heard, even the president gave a directive to the minister. So it's still unclear why it is that they are still being owed.
Okay. Our correspondent Friday is on standby because they have said they are going to gather this morning, anytime from now, to make their voices heard. Morning, Friday. What's going on? Because, I mean, yes, they've been directed to be paid. In fact, I thought that by now, some of them are already receiving their pay. But what are you learning about those protests?
Thank you, Chamberlain. The truth is the protest is yet to commence. But the language in the invitation they sent to journalists yesterday suggests that the pay that they were promised have not been received. That is what the language in the invitation suggests, because they said series of failed promises by the federal government that their owed money, the money the federal government is owing them will be paid, and they will be gathering this morning so that they will lead a protest to the Ministry of Finance to demand for the payment of all old contract sum that have not been paid. Like you said, it's a series of protests, or it was a series of protests last year. Precisely the months leading into December, there were at least 4 of such protests that I covered in Abuja here, where the contractors were all demanding that the federal government should pay payment of all executed projects. In fact, they said some of those projects were already commissioned, but they were not paid. So that demand, the last of those protests was when they went to the National Assembly. And I understand very well that the leadership of the National Assembly waded into the issue. Committees were set to look at the issues that the contractors were causing the protest by the contractors. But I was hoping that they will start the protest this morning so that I will ask some questions. For instance, those committees set up come out of it. I also understand that the presidency also took some bold decisions to ensure that their payments were made. I would really like to ask them this morning if they actually got any payment from those promises that were made to them last year. But like I said, the protest is yet to start. Just a few of them are gathering at the secretariat around the Foreign Affairs Ministry, at the Federal Ministry of Federal Secretariat, before they proceed to the venue of the protest this morning.
Do we know what the venue is? Because you did say that they're gathering, and it would have been lovely for us to be able to see at least the faces of those who have gathered. Do you know where the protest will eventually happen?
Well, the leadership, that is the president and their secretary, have not actually arrived here. But some of the members I spoke to 2 of them earlier. They said they are going to protest to the Ministry of Finance, which is not too far from where we are gathered right now. So I hope in a few minutes from now, when they have sizable number of their members, especially when the leaders of this association, when they are here, they will proceed to that venue, the Ministry of Finance, where they said they will be protesting this morning.
In your gathering, in your speaking with those who have gathered so far, have they been able to tell you what the challenges have been? Because we understand about 2,000 indigenous contractors are affected by this. Have they spoken to you about what any specific challenges, so to speak, in terms of why they've not been paid?
Yes, the one of them I spoke to earlier, in fact, it was more of a humor. I just told him, we're back to the trenches. And they laughed. He said, the issues are still there. They have not been addressed. That was in response. So it appears from what he said that the issues that led to the protest last year are still there.
Okay.
Most of the promises they made to them last year were not backed up with cash. And, you know, the protesters are saying promises that our money should be paid is not enough. The promises should be backed up with cash. So when you promise that we're going to pay you what we are owing you, we want to see the alerts in our bank account, because that is the language you want to hear. Like Mr. Chamberlain said earlier on, the money is the whole issue here. But I also do understand that the Senate committee that looked into the issue, when they invited the Minister of Finance to come and give a state of affairs, to give an update on what is actually happening, why these contractors have not been paid, I understand that the minister did say that over 80% of all old debts have been paid. So these are issues from the government side. So I really like to put it to the protester this morning. Let them confirm if 80% or over 80% of the money they are owed have really been paid or not.
All right, so we'll look forward to what their response will be. Has any one of them received any payment whatsoever? And if FG themselves say they eliminated or they moved to direct payments to eliminate the middlemen, you thought by now they would have figured all that out and not be faced with this problem in the first instance. So thank you, Friday. We'll keep tabs with you as we proceed.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so yesterday was, oh dear, the finals of the African Cup of Nations took place. There was a lot of build-up to this, and I think a lot of West Africans
versus North Africa, and you know whose side I'm on.
Well, I know, but even Central Africa and I think Southern Africa, I think a lot of them were rooting for Senegal, while of course some Northern Africans would have been rooting for Morocco, but not all of them, because you know when Egypt is involved, you don't know, it's doubtful if Egypt will be rooting for Morocco. Maybe Algeria, doubtful if Algeria will be rooting for Morocco. Those countries have a funny relationship with football when they play, especially, or for instance, when Egypt plays Algeria, you saw the fiery contest.
Oh, and then, yes. I mean, it's like when Ghana plays Nigeria. Come on.
Well, that's different, though. And that's a friendly kind of rivalry. But those chaps up north, oh, my God, you're wondering, is there more to this than football? Isn't it the same football that we're all watching? I thought there's supposed to be spirit of sportsmanship.
Oh, well.
But we don't tend to see all of that. But yesterday, the kind of build-up we saw, in fact, Temitayo joins us this morning in the last night. He's a sports journalist right there. He witnessed the tournament itself. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program today. Well, yes, a number of people would have seen what transpired from a distance, but you being there, what kind of narratives was going on within the Moroccans? Maybe not even just before, but afterwards, after all of that, because the images that were circulating was that of unsportsmanly behavior from either the Moroccan players, their ball boys, or the fans. What's going on?
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for having me on. I think yesterday was one of the most interesting games that I've sort of been a part of directly. Morocco came into the tournament as one of the favourites, and I think, in all honesty, they used everything in their power to try and win the tournament. And that was from using whistles and catcalling in the stadium from the fans, to the ball boys taking some of the towels from the goalkeepers, to even some of the players preventing the goalkeepers from getting their towels, which I think spoiled what was honestly quite an amazing tournament. I think Morocco, as the host nation, were exceptional with regards to the infrastructure and how they put a tournament on in Africa to put Africa on the map in terms of football. But I think it was definitely soured by some of the behaviour within the stadium, and also, I guess, some of the decision-making by the officials who, you know, some might say were influenced heavily by the crowds.
Well, this is where we are now. In spite of it all, Senegal eventually took the trophy. And I mean, I do not know whose side you were on. My guess is that you were not neutral in all of this, and that you suddenly were home, because I can see you proudly wearing the green, white, green. And I'm sure that you are hoping that someone will take revenge on our behalf. But tell me, what was it like in the stadium? Because I do know that when you're playing against a home team at the finals, that can certainly be tough for people who come to support the other side. What was it like?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And yeah, like you said, I think I entered the game as a neutral, being from Nigeria. But being inside the stadium is one of the most surreal experiences I've ever had. I watched the semi-final and the final, and with regards to how the fans are, they are very passionate, very emotive, and they supported their team from the first minute up until the end of the extra time. The atmosphere is, honestly, it's something that if you're not there, you can't actually understand it. It's one of those things that you don't necessarily get from TV, where it's so loud you cannot hear yourself think when your team have the ball. So I think Senegal were unbelievable in terms of how they handled the pressure. I would have liked Nigeria to have sort of been able to perform similarly in terms of like sort of just slowing the tempo down and controlling the game and keeping possession. But Senegal were well worth their money. They defended well, they attacked in droves, and they kept control of the midfield. And I think whenever the crowd were trying to get into the game, they were able to slow the tempo down to maintain possession. But you have to give credit to Morocco. They have been preparing for a tournament like this for the last 20 years. And you can tell that like they were ready to support their team. They were very unfortunate. But yeah, I can say that I am glad that Senegal won. Only because I think some of the decision making by some of the officials weren't necessarily the best. I think, as I'm sure you all saw, the penalty decision in the last minute was something of a travesty, in my opinion. Some may disagree. Which obviously led to the Senegalese players coming off the pitch temporarily. But I think ultimately, I would say the best team won. And yeah, I think for African football and for football in general, it was an unbelievable spectacle. So yeah.
So tell us about that minute, that penalty that was awarded in the 94th minute. Tell us about it. What was the mood in the stadium when that penalty was awarded? I mean, there are certainly people who did feel that, no, that was outright, as you said, travesty. But what was the mood? Were people quiet? Were they wondering what was going to happen, especially when the Senegalese decided to walk out?
So, I mean, yeah, it was a raucous atmosphere for the entire game itself. But I think just before the penalty was awarded, Senegal had a goal chalked off for an innocuous foul, I would say, which the referee didn't actually go to VAR to check. And I think that upset the Senegalese players. So to award a penalty for what I would consider a soft pull in the last minute definitely enraged the Senegalese players. I think the Moroccan fans were hoping that the penalty was given, and the celebrations were chaotic as soon as the penalty was given. And the fact that it took about 6-7 minutes for the VAR to be checked made the stadium even more tense. And as soon as the penalty was given, the Senegalese players said, we're not having this, we're not accepting this. And credit to them, they were able to put pressure on the Moroccan players in terms of coming off the pitch, completely destabilizing the atmosphere of the stadium. There were fights breaking out. Unfortunately, people were very angry in the stadium from both sections of supporters until ultimately the players came back on to a rouse of boos and catcalling. But yeah, no, as you can imagine, in a game with such high stakes, to concede a penalty with maybe a minute to go in extra time, a dubious penalty at that would have led to a chaotic response, I would say. And yeah, that's exactly what we got. I don't know what we could see from the television, but yeah, in the stadium, it was like a jungle out there, honestly, up until Diaz took and missed the penalty.
Okay, I was going to ask you, what it was like after the match. It's one thing to be talking about the mood in the stadium, but after, sometimes you hear talks of violence or, disgruntled fans who, can go on rampage. But clearly, we didn't hear anything of the sort happening in Morocco. So I think it still speaks to the comportment of the players. But I would like to ask what lessons you think that the whole of Africa in general can learn from this tournament and how they can constantly and consistently improve in terms of how Morocco has hosted.
Yeah, you're right. Just to touch on what you said, yeah, there was no talks, there was no like rioting or anything crazy after the game. The Moroccan fans, honestly, throughout the tournament, apart from when they're in the stadium, were exceptional. They are some of the kindest people that I've met, from obviously coming from London. But yeah, they were very gracious in defeat. I think when they beat Nigeria as well, very gracious in their win. And I think yesterday a lot of them would say that, the penalty was a dubious penalty. So they were very gracious, and they were very hospitable the entire way through. And I think one thing that Africa can learn in general is in terms of infrastructure. Like I said, Morocco have been planning for this AFCON tournament for the last decade, and which is why they've obviously also been granted the 2030 World Cup as joint hosts. The infrastructure, 10 out of 10. The fan zones, the level of pitches, and I would say even the officiating for the most part. Of course, with the host nation, some could say that they had some favourable decisions go their way, but I think the level of officiating was exceptional. Like I said, the pitches contributed to the AFCON tournament having the most amount of goals in its history. I think we had 121 goals, smashing the record, which was set in 2019. So I think when you give yourselves an opportunity to have, an even playing field, quality surfaces, and the infrastructure around it, then you give the players who come from the overseas, some of the best players in the world, who want to put on a show for Africa, an opportunity to put on that show. So I think what other countries can learn, and I'm hoping in the next 18 months, go into Tanzania, Uganda, and Kenya for the next AFCON. Just prepare, have quality pitches, give the players, the access to, nice training facilities, hotels, buses, things that should just come readily, things that, players are used to having when they're playing for their club sides, and engage the fans. Honestly, the fans made Morocco such a special place. There was fan zones in all different cities, and all the players understood, the passion that the fans were showing. So engage the fans, give them something to cheer about, and honestly, you have an amazing AFCON. I think Morocco did really well putting on this tournament, and it definitely is a highlight for African football.
Yeah, I mean, in addition to that, the way it came across to a lot of people watching is that the officials, perhaps CAF, wanted the host nation to lift the trophy. And then Senegal showed African teams how to play North African sides if you really want to win. Maybe right from the build-up up until the match itself. But it's a conversation we can keep on going on having. But we do thank you for your time this morning.
No problem, thank you. Have a lovely day.
All right. Well, back in a moment. Don't go away. Welcome back to Sunrise Today. Well, there are some concerns about the National Assembly stepping back consideration of some parts of the budget, but we'll find out what specifically is up with that one. And then the performance of local governments. I know, almost sounded like a broken record. So all of that will also be in the mix this morning as we are joined by Mascot Uzokalo, who is a former chief of staff to Abia State Governor. He's an investment banker, and I also just add, he did take a shot at the top seat in Abia State once upon a time. Good morning. Happy New Year. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much.
What have you been up to lately? Investment banking? Or you haven't stepped aside from politics, have you?
No, I have not.
Oh, okay.
I've actually indicated interest to run for the 2027 governorship.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
APC.
What?
You joined the APC?
APC?
Yes.
What happened? I mean, you were...
No, but I was a member of APC. We had some problem in 2022, which made some of us leave because within our state there were some issues that we had. Because I was supposed to run for governor under the platform of also APC, but because of some of the issues we had, I left and ran under PPA. When I was leaving, I did have communications with the national leadership. I said, if I win, I'll come back. If I do not win, I will also return back. So I returned back June 2023.
But But did the electorate know this plan? That if you had won on PP, you will go back to APC?
Well, I think the electorate were following me and not really the political party, because the party that I ran under was almost non-existent in the state.
Oh, I see. But has that issue been sorted now?
Yes, to a great extent, yes.
Does that, okay, well, that means you're going to vie for that ticket. It doesn't mean that it's a given.
That's correct.
Or do we take for granted that it's a stroll in the park?
No. It's not a walk in the park. I'm sure other people will come out to run. But at this point, I'm the first person to have declared. But I'm sure other people will join the bandwagon. So.
Well, since you're in APC, this budget matter. Oh, you want to go to the...
Yeah, I was just about to say that, because the tide, we've been seeing that APC tide sweeping everywhere, and a lot of people are still saying that for the governors who have defected to the APC in the Southeast, it's a huge gamble for them. When you take a look at, say, the governor of Enugu State, for instance, they're still wondering if the APC can actually hold ground in the Southeast region. A region that has been traditionally PDP for a long time, as well as APCA. I mean, they have maintained like an opposition stronghold. I think the only place that hasn't done that is Anambra, and it would seem that you have to, and then, of course, Abia. And Abia now went to Labour Party, no longer with the PDP. So some people say, well, Alex Otti used to be in the APC, and he left the APC, and when he left, he won. So how do you see that, panning out in terms of how you're looking at the future?
Well, no doubt that APC has gone through a lot of struggle, especially in the Southeast. And those struggles, the Southeast have joined the bandwagon to play national politics. And so with that in mind, their mindset is, if we continue to play this opposition politics, the governorship alone does not give our people the exposure they need. We need our people in positions of federal appointments and federal positions. And sometimes, a lot of times, we see Southeast being left out in this main appointment. So a lot of the governors in the Southeast want to play in national politics. When you're a performing governor, the people tend to follow you regardless of the party that you are in. So
you would say Alex Otti is a performing governor?
Well, that remains to be tested.
It remains to be tested. Well, because we saw the visit of the Imo State governor, Hope Uzodinma, to Abia State very recently. He said, I just came to visit my brother and, say we need to partner, etc. I were wondering, is he planning to defect as well? Because this greeting is a little too chummy.
Very unusual, yeah?
Yeah, very unusual visit, but it is what it is. It's what we saw, and we saw the speech that was given afterwards. And some people were saying, is Alex Otti thinking of defecting? Those kinds of conversations. But assuming that were to happen, this is me, just a journalist, looking at what I saw on television. Assuming he were to defect, how does that affect your chances?
Well, that will happen when it happens. But I think Governor Alex has made it clear that his days of being part of APC is behind him. He's been on numerous television stations and media outlets, and has made it clear that he was not coming back to APC. So, and from what Governor Hope said, it was just a friendly visit between two governors. And I think at this point, I'll take them at what they have said. Governor Alex has made it very clear that he's not coming back to APC. And for us in APC, we're comfortable with him being in opposition because we believe that we can wrestle power out of his hands.
It's going to be a tough one because a lot of people have criticized when you people were in office, when your principal was in office, and as well as when all even up until Ikpeazu, was in office. People have been wondering, did we have governors up till now? Because they feel, and this is what we have heard on the streets, that it's just about now they're beginning to feel what governance or the dividends of democracy should have been like in Abia State. From what you're seeing so far in terms of some of the responses that we've seen, particularly on social media, how do you feel to have been a part of government when it would seem the people felt that nothing was really happening in terms of governance?
Okay, well, the truth of the matter is that governance is a continuum, and you can't isolate one government from the other. The Orji Uzor Kalu's administration did very well because it was the founding foundation for Abia State. As it stands today, 90 or 95% of the projects that Governor Oti is doing today are all reconstruction of projects that were done by that administration. Let's take, for example, the famous Abia-Port Harcourt Road, which everybody seems to talk about. Ojikalu built that road in 1999-2000. As of 2009-2010, up to even 2013, that road was motorable. There are sections of Abia has a very bad flood situation that was not controlled. That's the reason why that road went back. But when you hear the current government talk about it, they'll tell you that this road has not been built in 30 years, but it's not true. A lot of the roads, or Hanko Road, Oboaya roads, all these roads, were all done by Orji Uzor-Kalu. So if you want to maybe take Orji Uzor-Kalu's record as a governor and put it against Alex Oti has not even gone 25% of the construction that was done by Orji Uzor-Kalu administration.
So would you say it was those who came after Orji Uzor-Kalu who dropped the ball? Well,
again, every government has their own policy. For example, if you go to Umuahia, a lot of the roads that was built by Orji Kalu are still standing. So every government had their own policy. And I was not part of the Igbazu's administration, so I can't talk about what their policies were.
Yeah, but you saw the environment was in bad shape.
No.
Before that, doctors were usually on strike. A lot of things went south.
I'm not saying that Governor Oti has not done an improvement. I'm not here to tell you that he's not done nothing. The questions we are asking, the questions we're putting on the table is that at what cost? The road I just mentioned, the Port Harcourt road I just mentioned to you, when the road was not launched, his media people came on board and said that the road was going to be for 34.5 billion. And that they were gracious enough, that Julius Berger was just gracious enough to give them a 2 billion naira discount at 32.5. And that road is a 6-kilometer road. Now, a year after, the governor makes an announcement and said the road was done for 36.5. And a few months after, he said it was done for 38 billion, 36.5 has been paid, and 1.5 is still being owed. So if you look at it, that road was done at above 6 billion naira per kilometer. And you're asking yourself, the road is nice, but there's nothing fantastic about the road to have been done with 38 billion naira for 6 kilometers. A few months after he launched that road, next door, Governor Fubara had a brand new road, fresh road that he gave the same Julius Berger, 19-kilometer road, 2 bridges, 39 billion. So you are asking the same Julius Berger, the same company, and what do we have? When we ran against each other in 2023, we came up and said we had this issue that the government was being run in secrecy. We didn't see the prudency in the government. We didn't see the transparency in the government. But shockingly, the same things that we talked about in 2023 are the same thing that the governor is doing today. Almost all projects that we talk about, nobody knows who the companies are awarded to. Nobody knows the amount of money that are awarded. All we know is that the work has started and at some point the work has finished. So we can't criticize. There's not even an open bid for a lot of these contracts. And most of the times, these contracts are given to foreign contractors. So the Abia people do not even...
How do you know? Because you say you don't know who they are awarded to. So how did you then see that they were foreign
contractors? Because we know that they're not local contractors.
Like Julius Berger?
Well, Julius Berger is one. But most of the people that we see, the names we see on the roads, the local contractors, we don't know them. We don't know them. So 90% of the time, these monies have flights. The local contractors do not have benefits of the funding, of the spending of this.
Okay, so what if someone tells you, well, if they are cutting corners, you don't need to bother yourself too much because the financial crime agencies will be on their cases if that were to happen. So do you think that that would be a valid point if they say they refuse to publish those details?
It's not a valid point because the Abia State government and all the governors are enjoying the Tinubu financial windfall, which we don't know. The next president might come in, might decide to go back to the days of paying for subsidy, and these windfalls will not be there. So it is important that we use the money that we're getting now.
No, what I'm asking is this. If they are not being transparent with the funds, or if they are misusing the funds, the EFCC or the ICPCs will always be there to prosecute anyone if they leave office. So that's why I'm asking that if that narrative were to be advanced or forwarded, wouldn't it also be a valid point?
That's what I'm saying. It's not going to be a valid point because we cannot wait to see what happens after they've left office. We have to start talking about the things that are happening now. I was saying to you...
That's assuming something is going on wrong anyway.
Well, I just gave you an example.
Yeah, because the government, the government on their part said, look, these are distractions, that they are being transparent as possible. He said that even yesterday.
Well, you can go to Abia State website today and see if you get any of some of this information that we're talking about. Each quarter, they publish their quarterly reports. And when people scrutinize the things on the quarterly report, the next thing we see, they removed it. They tell us they spent 54 billion on smart school. Where are the smart schools? The smart schools are nowhere to be found. But we found out that in the last 3 years, Abia State government has spent 7 billion plus on reconstruction of schools and 72 billion on construction of new schools. And those schools are nowhere to be found. The only thing we see, the smart schools they talk about, they are schools or existing schools that they're trying to innovate and rename them smart schools. And
so, yeah, that's what, I mean, what makes a school smart? Is it not what is inside it? I mean, the technology that is it so much as the structure as what is inside it?
Well, how do you spend 83 billion and you have not delivered one smart school? How do you do that?
Have you been to the schools?
We're asking them to show us the school.
So it's not like as if you've investigated and came up with no smart schools.
We have investigated and we're asking the questions, where are the smart schools? If you spent 83 billion, we should see smart schools. In next door Enugu has delivered 243 smart schools. 30 of them have been equipped and are already in use.
You've seen them?
The records are there.
Did you visit them?
I don't need to visit them. We've asked the Abia State government, show us one. And they can't show us.
No, what I'm saying is, you say you read the report. When you read the report, they pull it down. According to what you're saying, you said the Enugu State government say too, they have completed so and so. I imagine you're also reading a report. In either case, you've not either seen...
no, but Enugu State has showcased their smart schools. Have showcased them. It's all there in the media.
Okay, so what
we're asking the Abia State government, show us the smart schools.
Showcase yours as well.
Showcase the smart school. And we're not able to see even one of the smart schools that is functional.
Yeah, but I'm really looking at this battle that you're really looking forward to in 2020. Some people say you really have an uphill task because so far so good. If one were to go by the praise that one hears on social media, for what the Abia State government is doing, it would seem that, there's been no life in Abia, and it's only now that they're beginning to see some semblance. I mean, the other day I heard that, they've now brought about, CNG buses, working all over the place, and this is from the people. This is not me saying it. This is something I read. These are pictures I saw on social media. I do not know if you have seen that as well. So a number of people are saying, look, it would seem that right now the cost is not as important to them as the fact that something is really happening in the state. Do you really think that this narrative is going to get you 5? This is what you're going to rely on with the campaign. Let
me give you another example. Abia State government has, in the last 2 years, received over 600 billion from the federal allocation. If you include, 600 billion every year from the federal allocation. Neighboring...
Is that inclusive of local government?
No, inclusive of local government. Okay. Neighboring Enugu State has received about 400 plus. In the same take that you just talked about, Abia State government is still building one central bus terminal park. Enugu State has built 5. Abia State government just launched 20 CNG buses. as at maybe about September or August last year, Enugu government has launched over 100 gas buses, CNG buses. So when you bring up these issues and you compare them, you see the Enugu state governor is receiving less, but we're seeing more being done. Abia state government today tells us that they're generating less than 100 billion naira in entire generated revenue. Enugu state government is generating about 390 billion. And Enugu state government does not have a town like Abia, which is a business center. So these are the things that make us question what is going on in Abia. So it's not enough for you to say that we never had this good. Yes, we've never had this good, but we've never had this kind of money come into the state either.
So how do you juxtapose that with the sea of heads that is normally the case when, for instance, he goes on commissioning roads or the Minister of Works is visiting, that kind of scenario? Because the people seem to be happy with what he's doing.
We'll test those happiness in 2027 election.
Before and he won.
The difference of the reasons why he won, any political party could have won that election.
Oh, it was that bad with the previous government?
That's correct. Any political party could have won that election. The decision, the Obi movement helped a lot. And some of us congratulating him. It is not because the election was free and fair, but I felt in my own situation that the Abia people wanted change and the result represented change. So, okay. But I had reasons in the course of the election to have challenged that result. So when we say he won, it wasn't like a smooth winning. We had reasons to challenge those results because it wasn't fully free and fair. But the result represented the mind of what Abians wanted. And for going on 3 years, I've not talked about the government because I wanted to give them the opportunity to work.
All right.
So,
what do you think of the impression that the Deputy Speaker might also give it a shot if the governor insists on not coming back to the APC?
Well, the Deputy Speaker is my friend. In his wedding, I was his best man in his wedding. So if
he's a very good friend.
He's my.
But you know, in politics, it's about interest, not friends.
No. I said he's my friend, and if he wants to run, he's willing to join the bandwagon. But I've made it clear that I did not come to be a placeholder. I did not come to drop to.
So he should perish that thought in case he...
Yes, so like you said, it's a personal decision. So if he's joining, we'll go to the primaries. If he wins, I'll support him. And if I win, I'll help you.
But you heard he's been also asking the governor, come over to be APC.
Well, for me, that's a double standard. I am not asking the governor to come over to APC.
But he has been.
No, but I'm not. I prefer him being in the Labour Party where he is and let us stay in APC where we are.
All right, I guess time will tell. It's just the tip of the iceberg of what to expect when all of these things, begin to gather momentum. If it is on Eden's already, because, I mean, you heard him, he says he's going to go vie for that ticket. How much is it for? Have they...
No, they've not. I think the last one was 50 million, I think.
50 million.
Yes.
So now it will be more than 50 million.
Most likely. But we don't know how much it's going to be.
It's enough to say, oh boy. But I want to thank you for coming on this morning. Mascot Dosokalo, former Chief of Staff to Abia State Governor and investment banker. And then he's going to vie for the ticket for the top seat in Abia State. We are back in a moment. Don't go away. Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. Now we turn our attention. Remember that matter about FG paying some over what, $9 billion, is it $9 million to DCI Group for lobbying? Well, Frank Otor joins us now. He's a lawyer. He's also a native of Yelwata in Benue State. He joins us virtually, and it's about 2:45 a.m. where he is. Good morning, and thank you for your time. This morning and morning there as well, but we appreciate you joining us today. Well, I know you must have also heard that piece, that news item when it made the rounds and still is. So, and then the narratives about it in terms of why the federal government is embarking on that initiative. So what are your thoughts about that? Let's start with that.
All right. Thank you very much, Chamberlain. And my sister Margaret, thank you. Long time. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too.
All right. I think there's no need for the federal government to contract the DCI group to contract these Republican strategists, Peterson and McCabe. These are famous political strategists in the UK, in the US. And for so long a time, they've been contracting for basically corporations. They contracted before now for just 2 countries. Look, what is happening in Nigeria demands action. As they say in common parlance, action speaks louder than words. So what we are calling the Nigerian government to do is to just take an action on what is happening in Nigeria. You are spending $9 million to consult a firm in America, in Washington, D.C., to launder your image. There's no need for this. Because some of us who have called for this CPC designation are still in the U.S. We're still talking to the same persons these guys are talking to. So at the end of the day, this $9 million is just going to go down the drain because it's not going to achieve any purpose.
Well, I do not know how you come to that conclusion. I mean, I want to imagine that part of the advice that before a government takes an action, they would have, thought about what the loopholes were for us to have gotten where we got to. Because a lot of people were very worried by the intervention of the United States. Now, they didn't, there were, will I say, mixed reactions to that intervention, especially the tweet. Or will I say, the message on Truth Social released by President Donald Trump in terms of how they intend to come into Nigerians guns a-blazing to save Christians. Now, a number of people figured that if it was just about insecurity and to come against terrorists and to fight general insecurity because it also had a way of affecting U.S. interests, perhaps in Nigeria or around Nigeria, as the case might be, a number of people might have said, well, the United States is welcome. But what they were afraid of is the manner in which this happened. The fact that the U.S. said they were standing up for Christians in Nigeria. And you saw, I do not know how well you followed the dispute that followed afterwards. But, Nigerians basically were walking on eggshells after that particular declaration, given just how sensitive religion is as an issue in Nigeria, and the fact that both sides, Christians and Muslims, had suffered casualties as a result of the work of terrorists in our country. So for you, when you look at that narrative and how it had the potential to affect us internally, I mean, even, conflagrate what was potentially a combustible issue, do you think that we should just sit down, or do you think a government should fold its hands and not try and get his own side of the story heard as well?
Okay, thank you very much. Mark, the side of the story in this context is just the truth. We are Nigerians. Section 14, sub A, paragraph 2, sub 2, paragraph A of the Nigerian Constitution, 1999 says, sovereignty belongs to the people. We are the sovereign, not the government. We are the sovereign. And it is we the people, I want to correct that narrative. It is we the people, the victims, who have called on the United States to act, because the United States has the responsibility to protect, responsibility to protect as a cardinal principle, when it comes to situations like this. Now, let me take you on a timeline of these activities. Before now, we the people, we have called this genocide several times. Genocide has been happening against us, against Christians, by groups that are not related to us, coming to Christian communities, trying to obliterate Christian communities, displacing our people into the IDP camps, and taking over their land. Except anybody wants to, deny this obvious fact, that genocide has been happening not just now, for so long a time. In Nigeria, when in 2001 or so, Nigeria was to host Miss World, these guys went on rampage in Kaduna, burned churches, that is genocide. You are killing these guys because they are Christians. You are burning churches because it is a Christian place of worship. Just because of Miss World. Nobody says anything about it because it is we Nigerians that were complaining. There was a time that there was this Danish cartoon, a so-called Danish cartoon about Prophet Muhammad in Denmark. Nigerians paid the price. For what? Because they are Christians. That is genocide. It fits the intent and purposes of what genocide is all about. The spirit and letters of Article 2 of the Genocide Convention of 1946. It fits into it completely, but we're denying this obvious fact.
Mr. Oto, I do not wish to minimize. I do not wish to minimize, the sufferings of communities across, the place where you come from. I know that we spoke with you shortly after the massacre in Yelwata, where you hail from. But you also, as some people will say, that you also cannot minimize the sufferings of other communities, other groups. For instance, what happened in Borno State, which is still reeling from the massacres that have happened as a result of Boko Haram insurgency. How do we describe that? We know that these issues are a little more complicated than a dry-cut description that were given to them. And that, our country is such that, as you rightly said, something that happens in another place can have an effect. So when a president says, I'm intervening on behalf of one group of people to the detriment of another, or seemingly to the detriment of another group of people, shouldn't there be concerns, especially by those who are supposed to be leading all of this group of people?
Okay, let's break down this for easy understanding. Now, we admit the fact that there are Boko Haram in our country. It's so unfortunate that our country is the number 5th country in the whole world, placed on number 5 as a country that has hosted the highest number of Islamist terrorist organizations. So unfortunately, we are only we're number 5. We've only been surpassed by Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iraq, and Somalia. So we are number 5. We have ISWAP, we have Boko Haram, we have Lakurawa, we have Ansaru, and we have the most vicious terrorist organization in Nigeria that is in the Middle Belt, the Fulani ethnic militia. Now, if these Islamists kill fellow Muslims, that's terrorism. But if they kill Christians, they are killing Christians because of their faith. That is genocide. So let's break it. It's so unfortunate that they are killing everybody. So wherever genocide takes place, the people of that faith or that tribe were also affected. Like in Rwanda, when the Hutus were killing Tutsis, they were also killing moderate Hutus. So there's no difference. In Bosnia, when the Serbs were killing Bosnia under Milosevic, Slobodan Milosevic, this guy that was jailed for life by the International Criminal Court, they were also killing some Serbians. So there's no difference about this. So when it's unfortunate that they kill Muslims, and when they do, that is terrorism. But when they kill Christians, they kill them because of their faith. And that is genocide. So let's not take away this fact. We've been seeing how they've been trying to spin the narrative to say, oh, everybody's been involved. We are not responsible for the creed these guys were given, the beliefs they were inculcated with. We're not responsible for that. These guys, they were growing up in the street. They were given a creed that is based on hatred, on violence, and asked that they should go after their enemies. And today, these guys have grown into monsters. They are coming into communities. When they came into my community, they've been killing us in my community almost every month. But June 13th and 14th last year was on a large scale, on a different scale. And that is why many of us are standing up and not relenting. Because it's too much. I've lost more than 70% of the people I knew while growing up. Just because of these guys. We didn't do anything. We are in our land. These guys will come in the depth of the night and kill a 1-day-old baby, a 90-year-old father. For what? That is what we're saying. And the Nigerian government will be calling on them several times to act. Look, Maupe, we've been using the word genocide for so long, but the Nigerian government has not been acting. Even in January of 2018, if you remember the mass murder that happened in Guma local government under when Otom was governor, there was a mass burial of about 78 people that were killed in my local government of Guma. We called it genocide at that time. On the official program, it was written genocide. If you go to where they were buried today on in Makoji, Welfare Quarters Road, Welfare Quarters Mobile Police Road, the signboard is there. Burial of the victim of Fulani genocide. So Nigerian government has not been acting. We're calling it exactly what it is. So since they've not acted, we called on a senior brother. Look, we've not been protected by these people, by our own government. And let me finally, before I conclude this this chapter, let me tell you, unfortunately, the people killed in Yerwata, 90% of them voted for APC. They voted for the government to defend them on their own part. They fulfilled their social contract responsibility by coming to exhibit their civil duty and voted for this particular government. My cousin,
all right, Frank
Nsuteze, was the agent of APC in the last election.
All right, we need to wind down. So could you tell us, you've also that narrative that it's there, which was a true destiny to Biafra separatists who are quote unquote the ones championing this cause, and so government needed to also get the right narratives out there so people don't get the wrong impression about what's going on.
Chabole, you see, that is the power of propaganda. You're in the media, so you know what propaganda is. That is the power of propaganda. The designation of Nigeria as a CPC had nothing, absolutely nothing to do with Biafra. Absolutely nothing. We, the victims, we're the ones in the forefront, the main victims of the genocide in Nigeria. Before now, you knew when my Lord Bishop Anabi of the Catholic Diocese of Makurdi came to the U.S., addressed the U.S. Congress in March of last year. That was even long before Yerwata happened. In March last year, and asked for the designation of Nigeria as a CPC. When Yerwata happened, I was invited to Washington, D.C. I spoke at the iconic National Press Club, located just 2 blocks away from the White House. I addressed American Congress and American press, and I called for the designation of Nigeria as a CPC because I'm a victim. My community is placed on the edge of a precipice, is at the point of being obliterated completely. So we called for this protection. After July, I've addressed the American Congress twice again in December last year and in January this year. Last week, I was in Washington. Last week, Wednesday, I addressed the American Congress. After that, I met people, congressmen who were invited to Nigeria recently, like Congressman Bill Heisinger from Michigan. He was invited to Nigeria. I think he was hosted by Tony Elumelu in December and was hosted by the government. We tried to disabuse his mind. Look, these guys are just trying to hide the narrative.
All right, Frank.
The truth of what is happening. So it is we, the victims, and not Biafra. So anytime they call Biafra, and let me tell you something. Sorry, just a moment.
Unfortunately, we're completely out of time, but it's something that, of course, you know, it doesn't just end here. It's an ongoing concern, and we'll also find time to revisit the matter, as it were. So we do thank you for talking to us this morning, Frank Uto, a lawyer and a native of Yerwata. Thank you for your time. And is it good night or good morning now because you need to get back to sleep?
Good morning. I'm going back to sleep.
All right. Thank you, and all the best to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah,
all right, so there you go. That wraps it up this Monday morning, and it should make it a very lovely week, I tell you. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. I'm Chamberlain Osol. Goodbye.
Well, Chamberlain said it was all about the Naira. We hope you make some this week. Thank you for watching. I'm Maokbe Ogun Yusuf.